every time I didn't get a job, I had to self-reflect and look back and think about what is it that I'm doing wrong. You know, could I have interviewed better? Could I have done something differently? You know,
There is a new American dream. One that doesn't involve working till you're 65 before you start enjoying life. If you're someone looking for ways to regain control over your time and check off that bucket list now, you're in the right place. We share tips from experts on investing, personal finance, and mindset so that you can finally have the freedom to work less and live more. This is the Freedom Investing Podcast with your host, Chris Toribio.
What's going on, everyone? This is Chris Toribio with the Freedom Investing Podcast, and I'm so happy you're here to join us for another amazing episode. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our latest episodes. Moving on to today's guest, we have Jim Lee. Jim was born and raised in Taiwan. At the age of 11, Jim emigrated to the United States with his family in pursuit of a better life and living the American dream. He received his Bachelor of Science degree in economics from UCLA in 2010 and started his career as an inside sales representative for LoopNet and Costar. By being the top sales rep and earning the highest accolades and recognition amongst his peers, he worked with top real estate agents who helped him spark his interest in real estate and acquired his very first property. After achieving this milestone, he understood the power of passive income and how real estate can help build long-term wealth. Now, he's looking to leverage real estate syndication to help investors achieve the same goal of financial freedom and generate returns to all looking for a transparent partnership. His humble beginnings motivate him to take care of the family, who weren't given the same opportunities, as well as give back to those who have helped him along the way. The closest to him can attest to his passion and persistence to do whatever it takes to help reach their goals. Jim, welcome to the show. Before we dive into it, give us a quick 2-minute rundown of who you are, your background, and where you are in your journey to achieving time freedom.
yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show and for that pleasant introduction. So yeah, my background has always been in real estate. Just like you mentioned, I graduated from UCLA back in 2010, which is right after the 2008 subprime mortgage crash, followed by the 2010 European debt crisis. So at that time, I was just looking for a job like anybody else, and I was actually jobless for a year and a half. I went through hundreds of interviews, got really good at selling myself, and eventually landed an inside sales role working on LoopNet. From there, it kind of just, I was able to talk to real estate agent, lenders, property managers on a daily basis, and I learned the importance of having multiple streams of income through real estate investing. And that's how my career started, and I've always been in real estate since 2010. Started learning about real estate, and eventually I got my real estate license on the side, became a realtor, and transitioned from being a realtor to syndicate multifamily apartment units.
Wow, that's fantastic, and such a dynamic history that you've experienced so far. Now, I want to start by really talking about your early days as a college student. I mean, as you had mentioned, you had emigrated here from Taiwan at the age of 11, and by the time you were in college, you were still here for less than 10 years at that point. So when you were at UCLA, what kind of sparked your interest in economics? Is it something that you knew early on, or was it something that you were exposed to that kind of drove your interest that way?
Actually, to be frank, I was not interested in economics. I was more interested in business. I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I wanted to learn something that's practical business. But I went to UCLA to kind of please my parents. Initially, my first choice was to go to Cal State, which is, university that taught more practical than theories. So when I went into UCLA, the only business course or business major that they offered was business economics, which is basically, you have to take accounting on top of economics class, and everything is all theory at UCLA. So I didn't really learn much. I wanted more experience, and that's why right after I graduated from college, I wanted to just work. I didn't want to go back to school.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, and I've talked about this a lot. I'm in the healthcare field too, and we always talk about the difference between theory and practical skill sets, right? And so I'm curious, what kind of education would you have expected to receive if you were to go to the other college? Like, what type of practical experience do they kind of offer?
Well, I think like the Cal States I was looking into, they offer like business admin, or they offer different varieties of business classes, that kind of helps you understand like the operation side of business. And I think that's what I wanted. I wanted to be something. I wanted to get in something that I can get some experience and maybe get some hours in. Volunteer and work at a company. I think that's some of the universities offer that, whereas the university at UCLA they didn't really offer those courses. You have to kind of just go in and find your internship opportunity, which I did, but it wasn't within the realm that I was looking for, because at that time I didn't realize that as an introvert that I'm a best fit as an inside sales instead of outside. I did outside first, and then I found out it was just not a good fit. And then when I started working at LoopNet, it was just a match, because I can just stay in the office, make phone calls all day, collect credit cards over the phone, and I would have no problem with that.
Very interesting. And so, for the sake of our listeners who don't really understand the difference between outside sales and inside sales, can you kind of define what the difference is between those two?
Sure. Inside sales is basically just sit in the office, make dials all day. You don't have to meet the people, and you can make sales over the phone. And outside sales is basically you have to go face to face, like being a realtor. You have to meet people constantly, go to meetups, go to groups and network with others, and see each other face to face, because that's how you establish that close connection and build relationship over time. That's the most effective way. In any sales, actually, as a realtor, they said that you can make phone calls in the office all day, or you can go knock on doors, which is going to be more effective. Knocking on doors, hands down.
Very, very interesting. And so, after graduating, I know that you had this long hiatus or so, but you got really good at selling yourself. You landed this position over at LoopNet, and you eventually ended up becoming the top sales rep and earning all of these accolades, right? So, how did you kind of get yourself in that position? I guess, what did that look like, and what made you earn that type of, I guess, title in your company?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I was jobless for a year and a half. Once I got this first job, I didn't want to go back to that place ever again. So I worked my butt off. I worked, I was hungry. I was motivated. I was more hungry than any other sales rep that they hired. I took the job really serious, and I took the learning really serious. I took all the materials home because in corporate you have 1 week worth of training, right? So I took all the materials home, study it, memorize what I need to memorize, the scripts and so forth, and then just kind of persist from there and worked my butt off, like probably 8 to 10 hours a day minimum, perfecting my craft. And eventually, when Costar had acquired us, the CEO of Costar, Andy Florence, threw us this huge incentive. First place that gets, whoever is able to bring in the most revenue for the company wins 100,000, 50,000. Top five places
Holy
win
cow.
something. Yeah, so it's a yearly bonus incentive plus monthly incentive: 10,000 for the first place, 5,000 for the second place, and so forth. So I consistently won monthly between first and second, and overall I won second place for the yearly competition, because of the drive, that the motivation I had, landing this job, and didn't want to go back to being jobless again.
Absolutely. I mean, I can imagine, you come here from another country, you finish up high school, you go into college, ultimately going to a college that like you maybe had other preferences, but you still finished it in a degree with economics. And then you graduate and you're like, I need to work. I need to provide. I need to earn some money for myself. And that year and a half, what was that like for you? I mean, trying to find these jobs. I mean, I want to step back and kind of talk about that real quick. Like, what was that kind of experience like? It sounds like it really affected you moving forward.
Yeah, it was really tough. It was really tough. I have to admit, because I'm a very competitive person, and when I graduated from UCLA, I graduated with a good degree, a decent degree with good grades, and I see my circle of friends they all moved on, got a job, got stability, and I was the only one struggling at that time, and I didn't understand why, but I just went for it. I interviewed for all kinds of position, data entry, anything you can name of. I pretty much interviewed for, and eventually, like I said, I had to every time I didn't get a job, I had to self reflect and look back and think about what is it that I'm doing wrong. You know, could I have made could I have interviewed better? Could I have done something differently? You know, so you look at things and you start to get better at the interviews, right? And that's what I was saying, that I got really good at selling myself eventually, that I knew exactly what to say if they're looking for a specific thing. And then I think it's also my persistence too. I think what happened at LoopNet was the sales director really liked what I have to say and how persistent I was, and that kind of translated into the role that I took upon, because when I dialed, on average, people would dial 50 to 100 calls a day. I would dial 200 calls, and the only reason why I'm able to make so many calls is because I keep a big book of business. I keep about 2,000 leads, while on average people keep 500 leads in their pipeline. My sales philosophy is, if you don't say no to me, I'm going to continue to bug you. And that's why I keep all my leads. And that's how I continue to persist. And eventually, even a year, 2 years down the road, I was able to make sales by continuing to follow up.
I absolutely love that, Jim. I mean, you said the key word there, and that's persistence. And you apply that persistence not just in your job, but even in your early phases when you're trying to get a job. You know, when people are encountered with failure, right? They don't get the job that they wanted. They didn't win the competition that they're trying to do, or whatever it may be. People can either make a decision to do one of two things, right? They can either choose to say, well, I guess I was just never meant for this, and quit and move on to something else. Or they can take a time to self reflect, look at, okay, what did I do good there? But also, what are some of the things that I can do to improve, so that way next time I'm that much more prepared to be successful in whatever venture it is that they're going down. In your case, as you said, you took time after each interview, regardless of what happened, to self reflect and really study what it is that you can do to do better. And eventually, that landed you that job at LoopNet. Then from there, you took a look at the rest of your colleagues and you saw what it is that they're doing. And with you, especially being an introvert, you're doing inside sales, and yet you still manage to do more volume than some of your colleagues. And that was the defining difference between how you were able to generate being this top sales rep in your position. I mean, that's fantastic. And for those of our listeners who are struggling with trying to find a deal, or struggling with trying to make things work in whatever venture you're going down, just understand that sometimes it's a matter of persistence. And that's really what at the end of the day really comes down to, is like, how much are you willing to endure? How much adversity are you willing to overcome to really achieve the goal that you want to achieve? And I commend you for that, Jim.
Thank you. It's a struggle, but it's a good kind of struggle. Once you go through that phase, you'll realize how much you've grown, and then from there, you're also able to obtain new skill set that's going to propel you in the next thing that you're doing. So I think struggle is good. Obstacle is the way. The book. I think that's the key.
I love that. Yeah, embrace the journey, right? And that journey has its ups and its downs, and just embrace it, because it's all part of the process, right?
Right.
And so after you've got yourself in the position where you were at your job, you had experience working with a lot of top real estate agents in there, right? And so that kind of sparked your interest in diversifying out of your W-2 and purchasing another asset that can help generate you revenue, right? And in this case, you end up acquiring your first property. So can you kind of dive into the details a little bit about what that property was like? What was that experience like for you? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, sure. So because of the accomplishment I made at LoopNet, in a sense that everybody wanted to stay connected with me, and one of the realtor that helped me bought my first deal was someone I used to work with at LoopNet. We're still in touch even till to this day. And she helped me find this deal. It's a short sale. It took me a year to close. It's a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom condo located in Ontario, California. And yeah, it was a cash offer deal that I purchased. I used to purchase this deal, and yeah, there was definitely a lot of things I learned from this deal. But yeah, that's we can go into it if you like.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, for our listeners who haven't gone through the experience of purchasing a short sale, I guess what are some of the differences between that and like just buying a property off the MLS? I mean, it sounds like it took a year to close, right?
Yeah, so the reason why it took a year to close because short sales typically they only take cash offers, and they need the bank to approve the amount that the offer that you submitted, and typically they will take anywhere between 6 months to a year to approve that. And it sounds ridiculous, but that's just how slow the bank works, even if you try to push them. And my deal just happened to be a year. And the and the mistake I learned was, obviously not using leverage at that time, because I came from a savers mentality background. That's the Asian culture, that's how we were raised. And I was able to also save up a substantial amount of money to be able to offer this place off a full cash offer. But after I acquired this building, I realized there's so much I don't know about real estate, and so I picked up the Purple Bible like everybody else, Rich Dad Poor
Yes.
Dad, and that's how I started to learn. Okay, there's good debt and bad debt, and good debt you can use to leverage, and so to amplify your return on investment. And so that's when I started to get better understanding of real estate. And also I did everything from A to Z. I you know run the background check, find the tenant, did the maintenance and all that. And I also learned that I didn't want to be that active. I wanted to be more passive, so I started to automate things and hire a property manager to take over the project.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what a lot of people realize is, you have a choice between active and passive, and for whatever reason, I think some people associate being active as better than being passive. And the reality is that they're two different strategies, and you just have to pick which one aligns best with what your goals are with your life. And
Mhm.
there are people that put themselves in a position where they suddenly become landlords, and they're like, oh gosh, I just got myself another job, or I got myself another thing that I have to do that I'm responsible for on weekends that I didn't have to do before. And that's the reality of it, right? And so
Mhm.
when it came to finally purchasing this property, it sounds like you got a tenant in there. Did you have to undergo any renovations or anything like that? Or was it pretty much you got it, you closed, got a tenant in there, and we're good to go?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We had to paint the interiors. We had to change up the carpets. Yeah, everything. Once there's always something wrong with real estate. If you haven't encountered problems in real estate, you haven't been in it long
Absolutely.
enough. So yeah, I remember doing all of that, and to cut costs, I basically did all the maintenance too. I didn't paint the place, but I definitely I delegate some tasks, but I did whatever I can. I'm able to, and so to because this is my first deal, and I just wanted to kind of learn everything on my own, so that if I do delegate some tasks, I know how to hold what kind of expectation standards I can hold the person accountable for.
Absolutely. So you finally got yourself in a position where you said, you know what, managing the day to day isn't for me. I'm going to place a property manager in here to kind of help take over that role so I can focus on what to do most, right? So since transitioning yourself out of the day to day operations of that property and having that property manager in place, how did that change for you in terms of your experience?
It changed dramatically. I think that's also what helped me started to explore syndication, because syndication essentially it's the same thing, right? It's a team collected effort, but you're just playing the bigger game. You're scaling it now. Instead of doing one condo, you can scale it to 100 plus units, and now you're working with more sophisticated team, right? Sophisticated property managers, lenders, real estate agent to help you find bigger deals in the market. And so essentially that's also just building that team is no different than building an automation or hiring a property manager for my condo. But the scalability is so much better, right? Because instead of worrying about let's just say if I have 100 condos, I have to worry about 100 roofs. Whereas 100 plus unit apartment, I only have to worry about 3 roofs. So that alone, it's no brainer to play the in the bigger game.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you force yourself to think bigger, one of the benefits to that is like now you have the benefits of scaling, right? And so because you have a larger property that's available, yet you only have one roof, as you had mentioned, you also have the amount of revenue and meat on the bone to be able to sustain more passive day-to-day operations. You have enough revenue to be able to afford having an on-site maintenance team. You have somebody on board to have on-site property managers, and being able to do that allows you to focus on really making that asset perform as well as possible, as opposed to trying to just balance all of this stuff combined with the day-to-day working with tenants and dealing with repair issues and things of that sort. So there's definitely benefit to that. um,
Mhm.
and so I guess, how did you first get introduced to syndication? I mean, you purchased your first property, you rehabbed it, it was a short sale, you put a tenant in there, you hired on a property manager, and then suddenly now you went from one condo to having interest in purchasing these large apartment complexes. So I guess, what kind of opened your eyes to that difference in possibility?
Yeah, so like I said, in between, I got my real estate license, and that's when I started to think about, okay, now it's time for me to take on that leap of faith to become an entrepreneur that I always wanted to be, dreamed of. And so I once I become a realtor, I wanted to make a career out of it, and I realized once I started doing it, I realized it's not a good fit. And during lockdown, one of my investors showed me this show called the Real Estate Guy podcast show. It's run by two gentlemen, Robert Holmes and Russell Gray. They've been doing this for 20 plus years in real estate syndication, and they pitch about syndication constantly every single show. So I started listening to that, and I went out to network with them. That's how I got into real estate syndication.
Very, very cool. And so at this point, I mean, apart from the benefit of you being able to scale your portfolio to much higher levels, it also gives you an opportunity to help others. Talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, how are you kind of leveraging this business venture to be able to help others kind of achieve passive financial freedom?
Yeah, just like I think when you first syndicate your first deal, it's difficult. It's the hardest one, right? Because you don't have any track record experience, so you definitely need to partner up with people that have experience and track record. And I think that the first raise, for majority, I can't speak for everybody, but for me myself, it starts with family and friends. They might invest in your deal just to invest in you, not so much about the deal. They probably don't even know what they're investing in sometimes. So that's the scenario that I come across, is that my parents had always seen how hard I worked and how much I progressed and how much I constantly put myself out there traveling to network and so forth, and they kind of just bought into that, and eventually they started to invest. Because 10 years ago, when I first bought that condo, I was going to be a partner with my mom, but then she backed out. But now, 10 years, fast forward 10 years now, she actually invested in my syndication deal. She felt comfortable doing that. And I just felt, this, you know, uh, I guess like a win, like a satisfaction that, I was able to help her change her mindset a bit about the way how she look at investing. And not only that, but I'm also able to help her, help my parents, because that's what you essentially, that's what how we're raised, right? Like we want to give back to our parents, to our family first, and then take care of them. And so that's the number one goal that I try to establish. That's what I focus on
I
first.
absolutely love that. That's fantastic. And you're right. I mean, having an underlying why and having an underlying reason to give back, especially for those who got help get you in the position to where you are today, is like got to be one of the most satisfying things.
Hmm.
Last year we had the opportunity. I do anesthesia as my profession, and One of the things I had the opportunity to do finally after all these years of schooling is to be able to take my family out to Hawaii to be able to go on a vacation together. And being able to just do that and be able to bond with them and to be able to see them enjoy and reap the benefits of all the work that they also put in to help get you there has got to be like one of the most satisfying things I've experienced. And I encourage everybody to really remember and never forget where you came from, because if you don't and you're able to kind of give back, it adds so much more satisfaction once you're already at where you want it to be.
Yep.
All right, folks, so we're coming towards the end of today's show, but before we finish, it is time for the Freedom Five. These are 5 questions that we ask every guest in our show, starting with the most important question: what is your why? What is the underlying motivation behind everything it is that you do?
I think just what we talked about earlier, being able to help others and not just myself to reach financial freedom, right? The ability to give back to everybody who has been extremely supportive to help my mentors reach their goals faster. To my parents who made sacrifices to bring us to the land of opportunity, to friends who believe in me through thick and thin. I'm surrounded by people who constantly inspire me to be a better version of myself every day. So therefore, that's the way I give back.
I love that. Second question we have here: what book has had the largest influence on your life? And I want to preface this by saying, other than Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay, so I could say one of my favorite book currently is How to Be a Power Connector. I believe one of the uh, people from Race Master introduced me to that book. I try to focus on reading books that's more as current with the stuff I'm working on. For example, the book talks about how your social network provides the opportunity for people to accomplish together what would be difficult or impossible for them to do individually. Every strategic connection provides more opportunities for your business, and like a lever, it magnifies, the effectiveness of your efforts, which is ultimately what syndication is, right? Every connection, realtor, lender, property manager, investor is crucial to your success, to your overall business.
I love that. Absolutely. You're right. I mean, being able to take these things and, just as you were saying earlier on today, being able to take theory and being able to take that and apply it to something practical is huge. And I love the fact that you're able to take what it is that you're actually doing and finding a resource that kind of helps you uh, be as good as you can with whatever it is that you're doing at that time is super helpful. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Third question we
Absolutely.
have here: what is the most impactful thing, whether it's a piece of technology, a habit, or a person, that has helped in freeing up your time?
I would say 2 things. One thing is my accountability partner from Race Master. I think every time there's someone holding you accountable for the things that you say you're going to do, well, you better do it. Otherwise, you're just embarrassing yourself. The second thing was active campaign. That's also helped eliminate a lot of my headaches in my life. Automating things. Sending emails out. Email campaigns to my investors. Keep them engaged. Remind them that I'm still here. That's very important to our business.
Absolutely. I mean, the CRM is so important when it comes to nurturing these leads, and especially once this list of people that you have in your network continue to grow. Um, can you imagine just manually having to send out these thousands of emails on a day-to-day basis just to kind of connect with all of your people versus relying on a single piece of software to just do it for you is extremely helpful there.
Yeah, I actually did that
Oh my
when it first
gosh.
started out. I know.
oh, oh boy, that's got to be tough.
Yeah, and I ask myself this question all the time. There's gotta be a better way to do this.
Oh jeez, I could just picture you just like CCing an entire like list of 1,000 people on your email. Oh my gosh, that's got to be crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Well, thank goodness for Active Campaign for your sake. Otherwise, Jim Lee here would have been sending out manually 1,000 emails per day. You better invest with this guy. That's funny.
Yeah.
The fourth question we have here: what is the number one piece of advice you would give to someone else looking to achieve more control over their time?
I would just say get clarity on your vision. Once your vision becomes more and more clear, you'll know exactly what you need to do on a daily basis and make good use of your time, really. And I think that's very important. When I first started off, I didn't know what direction I was going. I just know that I had this piece of the component, like being able to raise capital to start off. But once you put yourself, the more you put yourself out there, the more you'll realize, okay, I got more to offer. I can add more value in certain areas. So just get clear on the vision. I think that's the key.
Absolutely. That's really powerful. And it'll really save you a lot of time because if you're not clearing your vision, then oftentimes you can get shiny object syndrome when you're presented with these things that are outside of what your focus was on. And suddenly now you spend some of your valuable time exploring that opportunity or exploring the other opportunity. And before you know it, you didn't get anything done because you're trying to do too many things at once. So definitely having clarity on what it is your goals are and why you're trying to achieve those in the first place is really going to set yourself up for the most efficient path to success. Mm-hmm. Fifth and final question we have for you, Jim. What is the most best way for our listeners to get in contact with you?
They can visit my website, formosainvesting.com. I wrote this short 20-pager ebook, talks about all the mistakes I learned as a real estate investor, so you don't have to make them. And they can also connect me on social media links, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, at Formosa Investing.
I love it. Well, Jim, tons of really good information today. I love how you shared with us what your early days were like as a college student, what it was like when you graduated and spent the next year and a half trying to find a job, and ultimately the persistence that paid off when you finally were able to land it. I love how you talked about your position at Costar and what it is that you did to earn the position as the top sales representative and earning all the accolades that you did. And finally, I love how you shared your experience with your first real estate property, how you transitioned into passive syndication to help not only you, but others in your family and your friends to achieve their goals. I just want to thank you so much for being a fantastic guest on our show. Really look forward to remaining in touch.
It's been my pleasure to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Now, if you like this show and want to learn more about how we can help you free up your time through passive real estate investments, check out www.freedominvesting.com. Make sure to subscribe to our monthly newsletter and schedule an introductory call with our team. We also have a free 7-day course on what passive real estate investing is and how to get started so that you can start your journey towards earning back more time in your life. To all of our amazing listeners here on the Freedom Investing Podcast, my name is Chris Rubio. Till next time.